welcome to Keep It at 100 Oklahoma High School Sports on this Tuesday afternoon with my man Big E. What's going on, Big E?
Nothing much, Tony. How are you?
Hey, just another day in paradise, man. We survived Christmas. We're going to have a great guest on tonight. My man Carlton Hall that played a little high school ball with me back in the early 90s. Went off and played a little ball, college football at Vanderbilt. Now he's doing a little bit of coaching at Milliken University in Illinois. We'll be bringing him on. We're going to talk about, old days when we was Bombers. Talk about what's it like being a college coach, man. I know it's a lot of work, man, on the road recruiting and all that kind of stuff. But, football is winding down here in the state of Oklahoma. Now we're getting deep into wrestling and basketball.
Yes, sir.
And I tell you like this, man, the games have started, but I hope they let the games – that was our hit point. Let the games in, baby. Let the games in, But, folks, like I tell you, man, like I said, football's winding down, but we're deep into wrestling, deep in high school basketball right now, girls and boys. Got a chance to speak with Jeannie Holbrook today, trying to get out to one of her practices next week with everything going on. Being 4 day, everybody's busy with Christmas and New Year's coming up. But I tell you, how was your Christmas?
It was good. It was a good time, just spent it with the family. Christmas Eve, we just chilled at the house. We're having to make new traditions. Unfortunately, my grandma passed away earlier this year, so that's usually what we do. We'd go hang out with her on Christmas Eve and have Christmas over there. But it was a little different this year. So we went to my house after Christmas Eve service at my church, watched some movies, played some games. It was a really good time. Woke up on Christmas morning, opened some presents, then headed over to my grandparents on my dad's side, hung out with them.
Well, you understand, we kind of did everything at my house, man. Jessica's family came over on Thursday night. We got together, made some nachos, opened up some gifts. Aunt Brandy, she goes all out for all the kids, man. So blessed to have that. Having Ivy's really first Christmas, turning 1 year old, man. I mean, the girl probably had so many presents on the tree is unbelievable, though. But, I tell you, man, all the kids, I think, made out real well. Everybody had a great attitude, man. We sat around as family. Like you said, it's kind of sad that I don't get to hang with my brothers. But my mom came over on Christmas Day for a little bit. She made her Momo's All-American mac and cheese that Gabe and all the kids love. Cam, Livy's boyfriend. But I tell you, though, man, getting to hang out with the family and do the things that we did was great because, I'm blessed to live another Christmas because right now, you see some guys, some guys that I know have coached their son. Davis, he passed away just on Christmas Eve, Gabe Davis' dad, Gabe committed to play baseball at Oklahoma State, and it's just so sad to see some of these guys that my age or younger than me, with this COVID and everything that's taken over, man. So, folks, if you're out there, you're listening to this show, keeping it 100 Oklahoma High School Sports, man, take care of yourself. I know, man, wear your mask if it's asking you to wear your mask, wash your hands, do the things you need to do to keep yourself prepared from not getting this disease. I know the vaccine is out now, so if you get a chance, I know some people are like, man, I'm scared to get it. Man, I'm going to go get that shot. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to keep it 100. I'm going to go get that shot, because one, I want to live to see all my three daughters walk down the aisle. I want to be the man that walks them down the aisle and give them away on their wedding day. So right. I just tell you right now, take it serious though, folks. But hey, we're gonna get this show going, man. Bring Mr. Carlton Hall on and get it jumping and going. Because like I said, it's cold outside, but we always keep it warm inside and keep it at 100 Oklahoma High School Sports. But like I said, we'll be right back with after you listen to one of our what?
One of our sponsors.
We'll be right back. Hey Zoe, I'm looking for some good insurance. Do you know anybody?
If you're tired of messing with the general, call Bobby Lewis. He can take care of your cars, house, boats, and even your pets. He has 2 locations. Del City, 4805 Southeast 44th Street. The number is 405-670-3665. And his new location is 1654 South Choctaw Road, Suite 107. Like a good neighbor, Bobby Lewis is there.
With 25 years experience in the industry, Line-X Customs OKC is your one-stop shop for all your vehicle accessory needs. Specializing in spray-in liners, lifts, levels, wheels, tires, bed covers, and anything else you need to make your ride look and sound better. Call Eric and the boys at 405-778-8878.
tired of going out to your trash can, having to smell so bad? Well, no further. Call Spiffy Cans. He cleans, disinfects, sanitizes. 405-423-8824 or go to spiffycansok.com. Spiffy Cans, he's your man.
Spiffy Can, he's your man.
Welcome back to Keeping It 100 Oklahoma High School Sports. We got a very special guest all the way. He's visiting his family, and he's in North Carolina. Defensive coordinator for the University of Milliken University of I'm jacking this all up, Carlton. I'm sorry. But like I said, coming on to the show is Mr. Carlton Hall, the defensive coordinator at Milliken University. How you doing this evening, Carlton?
Doing great, fellas. Just wanted to thank you guys for having me on. This is one of those things where every state needs guys and people like you all to promote sports, and obviously I have an affinity for Oklahoma because that's kind of what made me as much as I moved around. So I wanted to thank you guys for getting this and putting this together. So I appreciate being on today. Thank you guys very much.
Hey, Carlton, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. You have some people act like they're too big to come on your show. Here you are a college coach. You know what I'm saying? You're not high school. Not trying to knock nobody, because what we do here, we keep it 100. No high school junkie coach. I'm glad you're all about coming on and telling us a little about what you got going on. But before we jump into your career, Carlton, I had a chance to play high school football with you back in early 90s. I remember you started linebacker for us at Midwest City at the age of 14. Is that true?
That is true. As far as I know, before the Bombers became a ninth grade high school,
yes, sir.
I would have been the youngest player to ever score a touchdown at 14 years old. It was a fluke. I shouldn't have been playing. I got an interception, and I returned it for a touchdown. Now, here's the thing about that, Tone. Keeping it 100, the only interception I ever had in defense in high school, college, or pro was that interception I had.
Hey, that's keeping it 100, though. Folks, if, Carlton, we go way back. He came to Oklahoma, parents is military. I was a military kid myself, but moving here, man, and I just tell you, I remember when Carlton was at Jarman, because you first came when you was at Jarman, right?
Yep.
And
got here.
I remember going and watching you when we're like, hey man, we're gonna get this kid next year, man. He's a man child. Before people knew a man child, he was a man child.
Right.
And so, I get to go watch him over at Jarman. He's scoring touchdowns. Were you playing fullback, tailback, linebacker?
Playing everything at Jarman. It had to.
If people know who Albie Shore is, if you don't Google him real quick, that's what Carlton looked like. Not was he only a great football player, but he was also a pretty boy. So you're kind of mad at the guy because I would keep it 100, because back in the day, women they like the light skinned brothers. They didn't like the dark brothers like me. So I was kind of jealous of Carlton because he was light skinned. But that's keeping it 100 though.
Early 90s, Christopher Williams and Albie Shore were the hot tickets.
That's it.
So yeah, my curls let me ride that wave for a little while.
I love it. But I tell you who put us on the map was my man, what's his old, that played, golly, play the White Man Can't Jump. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes put the Dark Brothers on the map. So thank you, Wesley. If you're watching it, keep it 100. Thank you for doing that for us, though. But no, Carlton, man, so how was it like, coming into Midwest City, the home of, the Gundy brothers, Jeremy Woods, some of these guys that, some of the legend names, AJ Hinch, like yourself. What was it like coming in as a 14-year-old young man, coming to a team that just came off? You got to think, my senior year, we was ranked number 2 my junior year in the nation, with Gundy and Drew and all those guys. And, we get beat by Booker T. And here you are coming up next year, filling some of these guys like Tommy Pat Harris, great linebacker that was at Midwest City. And here you coming in, filling some of these guys' shoes. So what was it like as a 14-year-old young man?
Tony, when I think about that time, man, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was very, fortunate to be, there were probably, about 5 of us, honestly, sophomores, myself, Terrence Joseph,
yes.
Tim Daughtry, BJ Armstrong, Kamasi Ford. There was about 5 sophomores that were able to add to that team. And when I looked at it, like you said, the Jeremy Woods and Blasting Games and Shaitan, those guys, y'all had been together from like when y'all were 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so, me, I felt like a little bit of an outsider because how people felt about Jarman and Montgomery.
Hey.
We don't have to get into that. But
Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now. Hey, Carlton, I'm right there with you. I was a Jarman Rocket, so I had to fight those Maroney boys.
Yeah, you had to find out and find your way through that. But the two biggest, and I think I've had the opportunity to thank these two men. When I got inducted into Midwest City's Hall of Fame, I told them I wasn't going to show up unless Huggins and Evans were in the building at the same time.
Yes, sir.
And both of them came, and I was able to thank them. And Coach Evans, he's a legend. Coach Huggins is a legend.
Yes, sir.
We were really, really very, very, taken care of, Tone, because all those coaches that we had, eventually became head coaches because they had a guy, kind of like a Tony Dungy's tree or or Belichick's tree, where Coach Oliver and Coach Vaverka and Coach Smith, all those guys became head coaches because they learned from someone who did it the right way, who taught football, who cared about the kids. And so Dick Evans, he was the one, literally, I'll never forget. I told this story at Huggins. Huggins didn't remember it. Huggins, it was your senior year, my sophomore year. We were playing Putnam City. What's the blue and yellow one?
Oh, Putnam City West, PC West.
We were playing PC West, and Coach Evans looked at Huggins on the sideline and said, "What the hell is this boy doing standing next to me? Put him in the game." And Huggins did not want to put 14-year-old Carlton Hall in the game. and Evans put me in the game, and I caused a fumble, Tony. And after that, it was done, right? It was a wrap. So it was really finding my way through that. But we were, you guys, looking up to you guys and seeing just how athletic you were, and you could run, and you knew that offense, you knew the defense, and actually doing it that, not just the right way, but the Bomber way,
yes,
right?
Sir.
Understanding what Bomber magic was, and it wasn't just a catchphrase, understanding what hard work was. Every single day of my high school career, I lifted weights, fourth period at City High School, like those are the types of things that, made me who I am today. And I am forever grateful to Midwest City and all of the people, the teachers and coaches that I had there, 100%.
And that's the cool thing about it, though. People always say once a Bomber is always a what?
Always a Bomber.
That's it.
You brought up, another guy earlier, AJ Hinch. AJ was, he was a Rocket too, right?
Yes, sir. He was a Rocket.
He was a Rocket too. And I was in Houston, and I got down. I talked my way down to the dugout level, and the Astros, when he was the head coach of the Astros, and we won't get into how they got that championship, but they got one. So,
hey, you leave AJ alone.
My cousin is a scout for the Astros now, Tony. My cousin who went and played football and baseball at Florida, he's a national scout, Gavin Dickey.
Okay.
He's a national scout for Astros now. So he and AJ had already talked, and they knew each other. And, you play that 1 degree of separation deal. So I get down, as a black lady was a security, and I was like, hey, I play high school and junior high with Coach Hinch. Can I get down there? So she let me. And so I hit AJ, they actually won the game. And I said, hey, I see a Bomber on the field. And immediately AJ turned around, looked at me, and I happened to have a Vanderbilt shirt on that day. He turned around, looked at me, and dropped his head and just started laughing. And
that's good stuff.
To his credit, he was like, hey, you want to come in the clubhouse? And da-da-da-da-da. So, yeah, man. And I tell these kids when, recruiting them and things like that, like, you are always going to be a Bomber. Before I started coaching football, I was in New York City. I'm working down near Wall Street. And I'm walking across Broadway and 23rd. And I hear someone say, I see a Bomber. And I turned around in the middle of Broadway, turned around, and it was this kid that I went to junior high school with, man, and he recognized me. And wow. we're standing in the middle of Broadway in front of the Flatiron Building in the middle of the street, hugging each other like we won a championship.
That's
it. Cat since 1989, man. So that Bomber stuff, people and the kids that are there now don't realize how important this is and how important it will be, when they get out of that place. So.
Yeah, and it's like a fraternity, man. People realize though,
it is.
I see a lot of the guys on Facebook. I don't look like like I did back in high school, and I was a little bit lean and slim and could run, and so it's but I try to tell my kids because both my boys graduated from Choctaw, and Big E, the guy that does the show with me, he graduated my sons last year, and he's kind of got. We started this podcast because it's something he wants to do when he graduates from college. So I was like, hey man, let's get this going. So that's how we kind of got to keep it 100 going, man. And it's been a blast, man. We got some big things coming in 2020, 2021. I got some stuff I'm gonna throw at the end of the show. I'll let some people know about that. Me and a couple of guys I've kind of talked to is gonna invest in trying to help kids, with scholarship money. So that's something I'm gonna peek under the tent and learn a little bit. But I'm not gonna hold you up all day because we can sit here and talk just for 2 hours about high school and everything else.
Oh, easy. But I mean, it's those things, Tony. Like you said, for me being a college coach now, to get to that part of it, like we talked about the other night, Oklahoma, to me. Oklahoma, and again, I'm biased, I know this, but to me, Oklahoma is the same as Texas. They're the same people. They're separated by a dirty little river.
Yep.
But football means the same. Wrestling means more. There's just not as many people in Oklahoma as there is Texas. But you talk about some of the good athletes that have been through Oklahoma. You're talking about some of the best to ever do it.
Yes, sir.
For crying out loud, when I graduated, when he went to Oklahoma State, won the Mackey Award. There were guys that we went to school with. James Allen, was the #1 high school tailback in the country coming out my senior year. There's a lot of talent in the state of Oklahoma. It's not as much as Texas, but here's the rub is, like we talked about, where do these kids go play college ball at? Right?
Yes, sir.
You have Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Tulsa. So you got 3 1A schools in the state. And then you have no 1AA schools in the state. But not only do you not have a 1AA school in the state of Oklahoma, you don't have one in Kansas, New Mexico. Oklahoma touches 6 states. And there's probably a handful, including the 1AAs in Texas, there's a handful or maybe 2 handfuls of schools that type of athlete can actually go and get a scholarship. Football, that can get a scholarship. So now, because there are 4 handfuls of Division II schools in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, those kids end up going to a Division II school where their talent probably should have them at a 1AA school, if not a 1A school. So, finding the ability, and especially, and I said this to the guys I work with and anyone who would listen to me, especially with this year and with COVID, college football coaches were going to be put on blast as far as their evaluation ability. Because a lot of kids didn't play, the ones who did, like for instance, in Illinois this year was one of the 5 states in the country, Tony, that did not play high school sports. So they were mad at the governor and they wanted to burn his house down and everything else. But, they just, you have to evaluate these kids some of them on just junior film. And you and I both know, Tony, if you're in Midwest City, you didn't play as a sophomore. Like I was lucky. You didn't play as a sophomore.
No,
Some
right
places,
that, yeah.
you don't play as a junior because there's a cat ahead of you that's going to play 1A football. So a lot of these coaches, their evaluation ability has been brought to the forefront because now you have got to, and I got this from Coach Sumlin when I was with him in Houston. When you are recruiting a senior in high school, for the most part, and about 90% of these kids, you are really recruiting that kid's representative in 600 days. What's the kid going to look like that you recruit in 600 days? So when I was at Houston, and again, these are kids that left Houston and went to Oklahoma, right? So Emmanuel Agba, who went to Oklahoma State. He's a Houston kid. I'm sitting in his house. The kids, mom and dad are Nigerian. I had a whole bunch of Nigerian kids when I was at Harvard. I knew how to talk. I actually, my kids taught me some Nigerian words. Like I thought I was in, but Oklahoma State and Houston, not the same, right? Agbo, who went to Oklahoma, same thing. I'm sitting in his house. Think you have a chance at him. He goes to OU, and look what those kids have done, right? Like to be able to see that kid 600 days out of what he's actually going to be. That's really who you should be recruiting when you're at that level. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand that. Like the boy that went from Midwest City to OU, the DN outside linebacker, the kid that had the red locks.
Oh, you talking about Redmond?
Yeah, Redmond. Like, for instance, I'm standing on Midwest City's practice field where I put in a whole bunch of blood, sweat, and tears, right? So when I'm standing on that field, however many years ago, with Coach Pittman, Sam Pittman, who's now the head guy at Arkansas. And, you know, Coach Pittman is an Oklahoma guy. We're standing here. At the time, Coach Pittman was at Georgia. And so I'm looking at Coach Pittman, and I had met him a long time ago when he was at North Carolina. And I'm looking at Coach Pittman like, Coach, what are you doing here, man? These kids, you know, you got to, you know, there's a whole bunch of Redmonds running around the state of Georgia. And he was like, look, Carlton, anytime I get a chance to come back to Oklahoma, I'm going to do it. And look what he has done at Arkansas, Tony.
Oh, yeah, he's
how many Oklahoma, let's just say the top 20 high school kids in Oklahoma for 2021, how many of them kids going to Arkansas?
Yeah, because I know he just signed
right.
Hunt's son, you know, running back out
right.
of Carl Albert. You
That's
know,
right.
So Carlton, I mean, you know, we're going to get in this, you know, this recruiting deal because, you know, I went through it last year, you know, with my two boys, and, you know, I even reached out to you. We talked a little bit, you know, about, you know, how do you know of a kid? Because, you know, I sent you some tapes the other night of some kids, and how do you know if a kid's a D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO? I mean, how do you know those things? Because, you know, every dad, I'm a dad, I'm going to keep it 100, you know, and back in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, my boy's a D1. Are they really D1? Right. I don't know. But as a dad, you're going to think that. I mean, that's just how it goes, man. I mean, I know you have kids, and every dad or mom should think that about their baby, that, hey, my kid is the best, he's going to be the best. But how do you know? Because, you know, I look at the Presley kid, and I'm not trying to compare Gabe to him, but, you know, they got a lot of the same similar stuff. You know, Gabe might be a little bit stronger, you know, so I feel like, man, I missed out a lot that, hey, my kid didn't go D1, but God has a plan, so everything worked out good. But, you know, you still get kind of bitter because you're like, damn, what did I go wrong at? You know, as a father, as a dad or whatever, you know, what did I go wrong? You know, how can I get it right on the next kid? And that's one thing I started keeping 100 because we want to do what? We want to do what? We want to promote.
Yeah, we want to put kids on, you know, we want to get them to where we think that they can go. So,
yes. So, to me, Tone, it comes down to a couple things. One, you know, there's always going to be, and this is how I look at it. At the 1A level, and again, I played at that level, right? I was a spoiled athlete, and when I said I was going to Vanderbilt, you know, I don't know if Tony told you this, but when I said I was going to Vanderbilt, the whole state of Oklahoma, they were mad at me.
Yeah.
So, when you have a 1A athlete, it's that part of it is based most of the time. It's like the first round of the NFL. It is a beauty contest. Mm-hmm. You have to fit the height and the weight and the speed of what they think they're looking for, because you want to recruit. You don't ever want to recruit the exception, right? You want to recruit the linebacker who's 6'2" and he's 210 pounds coming out of high school. I was lucky. Coach Huggins told me this 20 years ago. He's like, Carlton, you are actually lucky because you're actually playing the position in high school that you're going to play in college. You know, for instance, Terrence Joseph wasn't doing that. Terrence wasn't going to be a tailback in college.
No, he was a safety.
He was a safety. And, you know, and he ended up going to Tulsa, right? And our junior year, Terrence led the whole country in pass breakups in interceptions because he was a 6'2" corner that could run. But Terrence didn't get a chance to do that in high school. So, you know, I was very lucky. I was very lucky in that way that I got to play the position. And now, because a lot of high school coaches want to run their programs like college programs and have guys only play offense or have guys only play defense, you know, I think it does the kids a disservice. Because if I have a kid who's going to play 1A football, right, that kid ain't leaving the field.
No,
he's not. He ain't leaving the field in high school. Like, you know, those kids, you know, now Midwest City, Tony, we always said that, hey, you know, we're smaller and, you know, we have less people than the Edmonds and Normans back in the day and things like that. But so you had to play both ways. But Coach Evans and Huggins had it right. Like, we're not going to just take a kid off the field if you're a 1A kid. That means that even at 70%, you should be better than 100% of the kids that are on the field. So
that's true.
I do think the 1A recruiting is very subjective to, hey, here's the beauty contest. This kid is 6'2", or this kid is 6'3", or he's, you know, 280 pounds or what have you. So I do think that's what. I also think that's why people get in trouble, though, fellas. You know, that's why you can have the University of Texas or the University of Florida have down years because they are just recruiting these kids that have 5 stars or 4 stars because that's what the recruiting services have said. You know, I think, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I think 7-on-7 football is just like AAU basketball. It's destroying college sports because 7-on-7 football, while it's getting quarterbacks and receivers and DBs better equipped to go play the college game,
yes,
you still got to tackle.
yeah,
Right.
You still got to block.
that's
You
it.
know, my dad is me and my dad have got into it already since I've been home because I'm yelling at the TV because even in the NFL they don't tackle any doggone body. So
Right.
I do think that you have these 7-on-7 leagues and you have these teams just like in AAU where you put together these super teams of the best athletes from around the city, let's just say of Tulsa or of Oklahoma City, and sometimes now. Honestly, Tony, they're going in. Colleges are going and recruiting kids off of their 7-on-7 teams. Now, like I said, as a quarterback, receiver, DB, yes, you could do that. But where are your linemen come into this? Where are your linebackers going to come in? Because you can cover somebody, but if you can't tackle them, then I don't have a lot of use for you. You know what I mean?
That's
so
true.
I do think that it becomes when a kid isn't a 1A guy, right? Like the three of us, we could all put. Either our daughters or our wives or girlfriends or whoever. You could put a girl, and I love women, but you could put a girl and have her watch a film of a high school kid, and she could pick out the 1A guy, right? I mean, that's easy. Like, hey, this kid's scoring a lot of touchdowns, or this kid's breaking people's backs. Like, that's easy to see. It's the kid that is the D2 kid, what you may see on film, but then you got to say, all right, well, is he using his hands as a D lineman? Is he using his hands as a linebacker? Just like the kid you sent me the other night, Tony, the first thing I said about him was such and such about being able to catch the ball, right? Like that's what 1A guys are looking at. The boy didn't catch the ball with his hands above the waist. Can he teach that? Yes. But do they want that to be in that kid already? Yes. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
sir.
They can be really picky about choosing those kids. And let's be honest, OU and OSU, they can be picky about choosing those guys, and they can want to get their finished product from the high school level. And these kids nowadays, with Huddle and being able to watch film, like think about it, Tony, like how much film did we watch? We watched film 30 minutes on a Thursday or an hour on a Thursday before the game on Friday,
That's
right?
it.
Like we didn't study film. And again, I tell kids all the time, look, don't watch film. You have to study film.
You got to study it.
Like you just know, you can watch. I watch an NFL game, but you have to study film. You have to understand what your opponents are doing. Is the quarterback licking his fingers before the snap only when he throws the ball? That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what you got to find. It's those clues when you study the film, not just watching people run around and jump and catch and run. Like you actually got to study. Like you should be watching film with a pen and a pencil and a piece of paper, because if you're not, then you're not studying. Because I've only met one person with a photographic memory, and he didn't play football. So if you don't have a pen and pencil and a piece of paper as you are studying the film, then you're just watching. You're just watching people play. So finding that kid who's 5'10" and he's a linebacker. He's 5'10", 205, but the boy can run. He does use his hands. He actually, when he tackles people, his feet keep moving. He doesn't have the dolphin legs or the mermaid legs when he tackles. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that I like. When the quarterback is carrying out his fakes, does he carry out his fakes or does he just turn and watch what's going on? That's what 1A guys, they want, that finished product. And you don't always get it, but, nowadays with kids having so much more access to film and so much more access to, being able to study their opponents and coaches spending time with them, I do think that they are more ready. But the biggest jump you can make is to go from high school football to college football. And I don't care what level it is. I'm at a D3 school right now. And to go from high school to Division III, like, it is the biggest jump you can make. Like, when I got to Vanderbilt, I was like, all right, I can run with these cats. But mentally, I was nowhere near ready. And again, you're talking about me being 14 in high school. Hell, I was only 17 when I got to college. So I'm out there with 23, 24-year-old people like, man, I wasn't ready physically for that. Now, was I on the edge of that? Yeah. But mentally was the biggest thing, because mom and dad ain't there to tell you to wake up. Mom and, you ain't there going to school every day. You got to write a paper. you know, I tell kids this: when you are a college football player, every day during the season, you are going to lose 5 hours of your day immediately.
That's crazy.
When you wake up at 7 a.m., it might as well be noon, because you got to go to meetings, you got to get a lift in, you got to practice, you walk to the facility, you walk back home from the facility, and you got to eat. That's 5 hours of your day is gone. And a lot of coaches don't tell these kids this.
No.
You know, you're guaranteed 10, 11 games, right? Those games are 3 hours apiece. So let's make the math easy. You get 11 games, that's 33 hours of football that you're going to play during the course of the season. Let's say you go to a bowl game. Now you're at 33 hours, 36 hours. That's 36 hours of a football game for the whole season. And you don't even want me to break down what it really is like for a kid to go to college, and the amount of time that you actually play in a game, because a game ain't an hour long. My college defensive coordinator was Norm Parker. He went to Iowa. He passed away a few years ago. He's the man that taught me how to play football. And my senior year, going to play my last college game against Peyton Manning at Neyland Stadium, he put a little formula on the board. And basically it comes out to, if you're going to, let's say you play 80 plays a game on defense, and we probably played more because my offense sucked at Vanderbilt. So you play 80 plays on defense, and they're only about 5 to 6 seconds at the most. I'll let you do that math and break that down. Because ultimately, you're not even playing 10 minutes of football as a defensive or offensive player. So all the running, all the lifting, all the sweating, all the yelling is not even for 10 minutes a week, honestly. And if kids were actually told that, it's not about ESPN, it's not about, you know, let's pick on Oregon or Carolina. It's not about the 76 uniforms that you're going to wear. It's not about the Jordans with the, you know, the duck on them that you're going to get. It's about 10 minutes maybe that you're going to get every Saturday to actually go and play the game that hopefully you actually love. And if kids were actually told this, I don't know if kids would want to be doing that. No. I mean, if you were told that you had to do something and you were going to do it for 5 hours a day, and then you get to Saturday and you only get to spend actually 10 minutes doing it, I don't think a lot of people would buy it. That's not something. That's not a good sell right there.
And you also know, you also know, playing back from, you know, in Vanderbilt to where it is now, recruiting. You know, because, I mean, now it's become a full-time job, you know. I mean, I have a son that's at UCO and he wrestles. But those guys, man, I'm telling you, it's, you know, my buddy RT, his son plays at Oklahoma State. He's a linebacker. He was a walk-on and ended up getting a scholarship. But, you know, he's at Oklahoma State. He plays special teams. But, you know, he tells me a lot of times, Gundy, I hold a meeting on Friday night for those kids can't go home or, you know, stuff like that. So it's become a full-time job. And you also got to realize, though, how much money they got invested in you. I mean, to go to college is what, $100,000?
Yes.
So, easy.
And so if they're investing that much money into you, they're going to make sure you're not doing anything wrong to jeopardize the money they're putting into you. So that's the thing about, I try to tell my kids and tell Big E, man, get that degree, you know. Yeah. Just don't go to school for 4 years thinking, hey, I'm going to go to NFL. Go to school and get that degree, so then you have something to fall back on. You see so many guys, and I'm not knocking them because I don't have a degree, but I got lucky to get a good job. But you see so many guys go to school and play ball for 4 or 5 years, then they're not doing anything with it. They become trainers.
They know.
They become the quick clinic. Oh, don't be the quick clinic. Own quick clinic and have, you know, have many, many, many other things you can do with it. I just see so many guys go to school and think they're going to go to NFL. NFL stands for what?
No fun
not
league.
For long.
Not for long,
not
baby.
For long, no fun league. And I'll put another one. Unless someone else thinks you're a freak, because we all think we're athletically freaks. The NFL stands for National Freak League. The dudes that are up there, it's like you ain't a freak. I tell you right now, I look at you and like, no, you're not. You're not. Now, I told you the other day, Tony, like one of the coolest parts about my experience of going to the Chargers was the simple fact that I got to go through rookie NFL camp with my high school tailback. When I walked in that locker room, because, you know, there was no cell phones or internet like that back then, I walked into that locker room the week after the draft, And Terrence Joseph, his big-headed ass, is standing in there.
Did he have that puffy hair still?
Yeah, no, he was bald in.
Okay.
But he still looks like a Greek god. And that dude was a freak. That's why he played longer than I did. That dude was a freak. So, you don't get the ability to do that. And you want to harp on kids. I mean, I make fun of it now to some degree. Like I said, people in Oklahoma were mad at me that I went to Vanderbilt and I didn't go to OU or didn't go to OSU. But here's the thing. As a 17-year-old kid, when you have teachers, educators of the youth of America, when you have teachers that are mad at you for picking Vanderbilt, which was a top 20 academic school in the country,
yes, sir,
over Oklahoma or over Oklahoma State, and those people are mad at you, the people that you grow up with, the people that you trust, the people that you listen to, when those people are mad at you, you often wonder, well, how many kids would decide that they would like to go to Stanford or Northwestern or Vanderbilt or, fill in the blank good private school or good public school in this country. Like I've heard coaches say the hardest part, and Fitzpatrick up at Northwestern and David Shaw at Stanford, and now hopefully Clark Lee going back to Vanderbilt and his alma mater. The hardest part for these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, the hardest part about choosing a school like that is actually telling your buddies that I'm going to these schools instead of Oklahoma or Arizona or Miami or Colorado, things like that. Because I'll be honest, Tony, back then, man, I was going to Colorado, right? That was a done deal. Everybody.
No, I remember that. I remember that.
Seahawks going to Colorado. All three of those linebackers Colorado had were leaving. How about this? Chad Brown, Greg Beaker, Teddy Johnson, right?
Yes, sir.
All three of those guys were leaving Colorado. And they were like, well, Carlton, come up here. You're going to fill in a spot? I'm like, yeah, cool. I'll do that. Do I get 34? Yep. Okay, cool. I can do that. Do I get to spend time in the Rocky Mountains? Cool. I could do that. I actually met, how about this, Tony? This was like the icing on the cake. When I took my trip to Colorado, I met Muhammad Ali in Will Rogers Airport.
Whew. Wow. That's nice. That's good stuff.
Will Rogers, at the airport, I was supposed to be doing homework. Here's the keeping it 100. I was supposed to be doing trig homework. I closed that book and I dropped out of trig after that first semester. So because Muhammad Ali's sitting there, you know what I mean? So athletics, the higher a kid goes in athletics, and a lot of kids, this is another thing they don't understand and no one tells them. The higher you go in athletics, the smaller the world gets. Because my little pond of Midwest City, Oklahoma City, is now going to merge with, three or four of my best friends in the world that I went to school with. One's from Dallas, one's from Kentucky, one's from New Jersey, or two of them are from New Jersey, and one's from Illinois. We got a chance to put our little circles with their little circles, and then, it blows up. So when you go to a school that's not in your state, and you go to a school that's not in your region, like you're gonna get out of that little bubble. I applaud so many kids for actually being able to leave Oklahoma. Tony, you and I both know, man, we talked about this. To be able to leave Oklahoma, to have the ability to leave Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's a big step, man. That's a big step for kids in Oklahoma, man. Like, that's a really big step. Because, again, I know, like that boy from Midwest City that went to Arizona State. What's his name?
Oh, I know you're talking about.
I know.
The DB.
The safety
from a couple years ago. Yeah.
I can't.
Like, I reached out to him.
Evans.
I reached out
That's
to
right.
him and said congratulations, because I knew what that was like to go do. And especially, it wasn't like he was going to a, old school Big 8 school like Missouri or, Kansas State, something like that. Like, he's leaving the state. Like, he's going far away. And so I reached out to the kid and I was like, look, man, again, I'm a bomber. You're a bomber. I applaud your effort. Good luck. Go do your thing.
Do your thing.
Because I am sure that he was hearing a lot of noise that, man, why are you doing that, man? Man, why aren't you going to Oklahoma? Why aren't you doing that? And I love Oklahoma. You know that, Tom. I love the Sooners. I don't like Oklahoma State so much, but I love Oklahoma. I love Oklahoma. And those kids, when they can make that decision and they can do that, again, at 17 and 18 years old, we as college coaches are asking these kids to make the biggest decision of their life, at least up to that point. because ultimately where you go to college is probably going to affect, maybe who you marry. It's going to affect where your kids eventually will go to school. It's going to affect the rest of your life, where what job you get, at least the first and second job that you actually get. This is the biggest decision that these kids are going to make in their lives. And we're asking them to do it at 17, 18 years old.
Yes, sir.
Is that fair? I mean, we've been doing it for a long time. But especially if you don't have parental input, whether it's mom and dad or just mom or just dad, or if it's grandma.
Yeah.
My job is I tell people all the time, my job is to make sure that I get you as much educated information as possible, so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. And when I tell kids that, sometimes, Tony, they're looking at me crazy, because I'm like, look, my job is to help you go to school. Now, hopefully, if I like you, that's the school that I'm at. But if it isn't, then I'm going to help you get to another school. For instance, Tony, we talked about where your boys went to high school. That young man right now, I told him a couple months ago, he had an offer from Milliken University. He ain't had an offer from nobody yet. And I told him, I said, there are coaches in the state of Oklahoma that know exactly who I am and know where I'm at. And when you get this offer, you're going to get some more offers. Sure enough, I offered him a week later, based on that boy's ability, first off, right? But two, based on that offer, he got bang, 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 bang. Now, is he a D2 kid? Nah, he's definitely a 1AA kid, but that goes back to what I talked about in the beginning. He's a 1AA kid, but where's he going to go? Right? Stephen F. Austin, they're recruiting Texas guys. Sam Houston, they're recruiting Texas guys and bounce backs. Right? Northern Colorado, right? They're recruiting the West Coast. So those are the types of kids that I would love to see get the opportunity to go to some of these schools. But again, it's that evaluation that coaches have to do on each one of these guys and figure out how best do they fit into their system. Because again, Tony, being able to get a kid who's, let's say he's 6'3" and he's 205 pounds, and you think he might be a DN or he might be an outside linebacker. Okay, well, I'm a 4'3" guy, right? That's just how I grew up. That's how I am. That's what I'm going to do. To me, that kid is one of those tweeners, right? You hear that term thrown around all the doggone time. Well, he's a tweener. Well, is he a DN or is he a stand-up outside linebacker? Well, I'm a 4'3" guy, so if I don't think he can play DN for me, I sure as heck don't believe he can just stand up and be a stack linebacker. Because I hate when people say, "Oh, well, we just put him as a stack linebacker." No, you can't. No, if you don't understand what it's like to be in that box and see guards go this way and that way, and see a running back go this way and that way, especially with all the cheating rules the offense can do now. They sending linemen down the field and running RPOs and all this other stuff. If you have not done that before, you ain't just going to do that when you get to college.
It ain't going to come overnight.
Like that, So it is also, a kid may fall between the cracks based off of, is he a tweener, right? Is he a safety or a corner, right? Is he a slot or a corner, right? Is he a running back or is he a linebacker? One of the best parts that I'm most thankful for, when I got to college, I played running back. I knew where the hole was supposed to be, and if that hole wasn't there, I knew where the other hole was supposed to be, right? So that was what helped me do that, right? Quarterbacks, being able to be a free safety, right? To be able to take a quarterback who can't maybe throw the ball and make him the free safety, man, that's what I'm looking for. I want a guy who understands what the quarterback is actually supposed to be looking at from his side of the field. And if you can do that, Tone, if coaches can, and there are great coaches. I am by no means the expert on this. And that's where you get coaches that when you see success, let's put, my man down there at TCU, who's now been there for 2 decades. I didn't realize that. Who's the head coach at TCU? Barnett, Gary Barnett.
What's his name?
No, not
Gosh,
Gary Barnett.
dang it. I know.
But for him, right? Like his formula was, he took a whole bunch of the fast kids that you have in the state of Texas, a lot of tailbacks, and he was turning those guys into defensive ends and outside linebackers, and was putting really fast guys on the field. And they messed around. They beat Oklahoma twice in about a 10-year span.
Yeah,
that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen at all. But he did it. He got them to the point where he could get TCU into the Big 12. Bam. Yeah. And now TCU is what they are. So there are coaches that are really good at evaluating talent.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that end up being, on TV on Saturdays and people paying attention to them.
So Carlton, tell me this though. I mean, looking at your resume, man, it goes deep. I mean, you've done from Division III to Division II to Division I. One thing I haven't seen on here, and like you said, Oklahoma is your state. Have you ever thought about getting into high school as a head high school football coach?
If you were to let two people tell it, if you were to let Kamasi Ford and Chris Meredith, right? Those are two names from your past.
Yes, sir.
If you were to listen to them two cats, I should probably be at our alma mater instead of the person that has my last name right now.
Yeah.
And I've met the cat, right? We've talked. Midwest City is not the same place.
No.
We've talked. We've definitely talked about that, right? The constituency of Midwest City High School has changed. But I have, with having moved around as much as I have now, Tony, and again, it's in my DNA, being an Air Force brat and then being a college football coach, right? I've moved around a lot, and now, man, I'm middle aged, man, and right now I'm probably on the other side of middle age because Lord knows I ain't gonna let it be 90. I'll tell you that right now. So to be able to get to a place where you are going to be supported by the administration, right? Where you have the ability to get some good kids that can help you build a program. I have thought about it, and there's two places that I would do it. Texas, because they just pay you a heck of a lot more money. Right. One of the guys that I went to high school or that I went to college with, he's a defensive coordinator down in Dallas right now, and he said for 5 years, as soon as he gets a head job, he's like, "See, Hall, you got to come down. Are you going to do it or you're not?" He keeps trying to get my Texas teacher certification.
Yeah.
he'll send me an email about every week. Or about every month, he'll send me an email, "Hey, you get your teacher certification." So I have thought about that, Tony. I really have. I guess I still have this feeling of, wanting to be a part of that 1A school that can go and win a whole bunch of games while doing it in the most correct manner, right?
Yes,
like, and you want to be a part of those things, but at this point, my kids are, they're, they think they're grown, but, my daughter is 22. She's a junior at Middle Tennessee State University, and my son is a sophomore, and he's at the University of Lille. And if that sounds weird, it's because the University of Lille ain't here. The University of Lille is about an hour and a half north of Paris.
Wow.
So he actually goes to school in France, speaks French fluently, Spanish fluently. Hell, I think he even speaks sign language fluently, to be honest with you. So to be able to, to be able to have, the kids be taken care of and be smarter than dad and do those things. Yes. And so, while they're not fully grown yet, they're going on this course where I see them, succeeding. So now it's about, hey, still want to take care of them. Mom and dad, luckily, are still with me. And, I don't know what I'm going to do without them jokers, but being able to take care of them. I have actually thought about, being able to come back to Oklahoma and do that, because it would only be one or two places. It would either be Texas or Oklahoma, or I would actually come back and coach high school ball. I wouldn't do it anywhere else.
Well, that's a good deal, because like I said, I never, I've got a chance to do some stuff with Huff when I was coaching Little Bombers growing up. I'm always a Bomber, and I coached Little Bombers, when my boys were younger. We were, Little Memphis City Bombers, and, we did a lot of stuff with Dion and all that, traveled to different states and played. But I don't feel like the Bomber still has that same tradition. Like I said, my kids graduated from Choctaw, so for a few years, I rooted for the Yellow Jackets. Now, I'll have a dog in the fight, so I still root for the Bombers. I've got a chance to do some stuff with Coach Hall. One of my good buddy coaches over there, Coach Thomas, man, he's the track guy. Andy Collier is a guy that is a few years younger than you.
Yep.
Collier. Chris is his brother. He coaches my daughter in basketball, and Brad's the baby brother. And so I got a chance to know the Collier brothers. Two of them was quarterbacks. I think Andy was the last quarterback to one state on this side of the state. So I get to see him.
And that's what I tell people all the time, Tony. At the very end of the day, Midwest City is still the last large class high school to win a state championship, even after they broke up 6A into 1 and 2 or whatever they did, and rightfully so, right? I mean, you got Midwest City at whatever 1,400 kids total playing against Broken Arrow or Jinx, and they got 3,000 or 4,000 kids. Yeah, like that needed to be done, right? Like one of the guys on Twitter that was doing the Oklahoma high school sports was, kind of saying something with the championships and, the private schools having more money and, things like that. Well, yeah. I said, but, I asked him the question. I said, you mad that they have more money or you mad that they recruiting? Because I got some stories about recruiting for you.
Hey, believe me. Hey, believe me right now. We can keep that 100, man. People don't want me to start dropping that good news because I see it all the time,
Yeah.
That's been going on from before I ever showed up in the state of Oklahoma, Tony. We know that. So are you mad about the money or are you mad about the recruiting? Because, you definitely played with, and we should have played with a certain running back that went to Edmond mysteriously.
I can say his name, Shea Foster. I can say his name. Edmond bought him and the kid drove a Pinto, went from driving a Pinto to driving a Porsche. So,
that's been going on for 30 years. So it's not the recruiting because, every high school that has had the ability to do that, hell, Jinx got in trouble for it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not news, right? Okay. They got in trouble for that.
Carlton,
that's been going on forever.
I understand on that point though, because there's a way. Like I said, don't get me wrong, because my boy was a hell of a wrestler. He could have picked many different schools he could have wrestled for. We was under Benny Coleman. I never thought Gabe was going to be the football player he ended up being. And, Deshaun both, So when we picked Tata, we didn't pick Tata because of football. We picked it because of Benny Coleman and the wrestling. But I also put myself in the point, hey, if we're going to be over here, we're going to make this kind of a football deal. So, a lot of people's not going to knock on the door and say, hey, Tony Johnson turned Tata to what it was. But I think I did, a lot of 7-on-7, getting these kids out, doing the quick clinic stuff that I did with these boys and getting them out there, taking them to College Station, taking them to Dallas and playing against different teams, letting them see. Because one thing you don't have at Choctaw, you don't have a bunch of African-American kids. And Carlton, we played in Middle City, it's probably 60-40, and maybe not even that, but, overnight, Tata has gotten a little bit more kids out here. And I understand, like you said, recruiting, it happens. Kids move and all that. But my whole point, if you're going to do it, man, let's don't cheat and do it. Don't lie about doing it. That's my whole deal because my black ass, keeping it 100, I bought a house in Choctaw. You know what I'm saying? Me and my wife sold my house I had in Del City, and like I told my kids the other night, if I'd have kept that house in Del City, everybody would have got a Range Rover for Christmas. And that's me keeping it 100 because, one, that mortgage is a little bit cheaper, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just keeping it real with you. So everybody would have had a Range Rover, So my whole point is I understand, hey, you're gonna go get kids, you're gonna get kids to come over here. That's what's part of it. When we were on the wrestling program, we had kids move in, but if you do it right, I have no problem with that. But don't cheat and do it. Don't have a fake house. Don't have a fake address. Don't have a fake this.
Right.
Don't have a kid staying in a bedroom he really ain't staying in. That's what pisses me off because if you're going to do it what?
Do it the right way.
I mean, because why am I taking away from Johnny that's bust his butt to try to get better, that's went to a special, but then we're going to bring a kid in, he really don't live here. He still lives on the other side of town, but he's staying in his bedroom, but he really don't live in that bedroom. That's what irritates me. If a coach can
or Tony, when it is put together by a college coach who is asking the high school coach to funnel kids to him, that's another thing that I have a problem with as well, right? So I again, these kids, man, they're kids. They're 16, they're 16, 17, sometimes 15 years old, and they're being pulled in certain directions that hopefully will help them. But here's the thing. You recruit a kid to your high school, right? And it's legit, let's say. But if the high school coach is then using that kid up and then doesn't help him get to school, right? Like I do think that a large portion, not a large, but it is a large portion of a high school coach's job, whatever the sport is, right? We're talking about football and wrestling, but whether it be basketball, cheerleading, golf, tennis, I do think a large portion of a high school coach's job is to help that kid get to college.
I don't think a lot of coaches do that. We've been talking about this.
And they don't. Tony, they don't. They do not do it, man. A lot of coaches do not do it. They just don't. And they say, well, and then they say, well, I don't have time. Well, then you don't have time to do it the right way. Then get out.
Absolutely.
But you want to win though. You want to win. You want to have that ring on your finger. And I can talk about a program all day long.
I already know who you're talking about.
Who's that? Carl Albert.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not knocking Carl Albert because I don't know Coach Corley or Coach Rose, and Coach Rose is around the corner from me. I see him in the summertime riding his bike, but I'm gonna keep it 100. I don't know how you can win 16 gold balls, right, Carlton? 16 gold balls, because when we play,
it's 11 of the last 20.
Yeah,
I do know that, right?
And I can tell you, Carlton, when we was in high school, Carl Albert was little brother to us, right?
Yeah,
little brother to us. They wasn't nothing. We went over there and ate that Burger King, took their women, and never wanted to play us. And kids that couldn't play for us went to Carl Albert. Yeah. They couldn't start for us, so guess what? I'm going to run over to Carl Albert. And back then, because we was a big 5A, Carl Albert was 4A. And I'm not dogging you, Carl Albert people. Don't get mad. I'm just keeping it 100. That's what we do here. We keep it 100. But you win all these championships, and none of these kids go nowhere. Yeah. But then you got a school right around the corner. They won nothing, and they're sending 4 or 5 kids to D1 school.
More than that. I mean,
it's crazy. I mean, I'm thinking, and I'll be honest with you, man, since we keeping it real, and I'm talking to one of my old school dogs. My son was a damn all-state in football and all-state in wrestling. The kid had one offer. Explain that to me, Carlton. Because I ain't been trying to talk about the shit, but we keeping it real here.
Yeah, it goes to, it goes back to even when the way that even the coaches and teachers perceive who should be picked, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, let's go back and talk specifically about me being in high school. Right? I was the perfect example. Right? Kamasi sent me this damn article before Christmas, from our senior year. And I'm class president and things like that. Like, I'm the perfect example. I'm an officer's kid. I'm a class president. And, oh, hey, by the way, I'm also good at football. And, oh, hey, by the way, my GPA is above a 3.5. Like, I'm the perfect example, right? Like, you can sell the hell out of that kid, whoever he is. Don't take Carlton Hall's name off of it and put Tony Johnson's name on that profile. You can sell the hell out of that. But was I the best athlete at Midwest City? Not by a long shot. Not even by a super long shot. Let's go back to your senior year, right? There's a certain kid that went to OU and a certain kid didn't have offers. Well, which one was better?
Dietrich Robinson. I'm going to say his name.
Right? Which one was better?
Dietrich Robinson. Probably led our team in tackles.
You and I both love Dietrich. Dietrich was a dog, but Dietrich not to be 1A and someone else to be 1A, so I do know that happens, Tony. Like, coaches, they pick a guy. And if I'm a college coach that doesn't understand the politics, let's be honest, that doesn't understand the politics of a school or a community, then I gotta trust the high school coach. He's telling me that this kid's better. I see it on film. They look close, but I can only pick one, probably, right? Because they play the same position. Well, how am I going to do that?
Or I think a lot of coaches do this, Carlton, and about going out and recruiting. You go into, say you go into Coffeyville High School. I'm saying a school. I don't want nobody saying I'm talking about a school here in Oklahoma. They get their underwear tied up, and I'm keeping it real here. You got me fired up after Christmas. I'm trying to be good going to the new year. But you go into a school, so you go into Coffeyville High School, right? You go in and you talk to Coach Mack. Mack is sitting there telling you about this linebacker he's great. He got the senior linebacker, but then he got this junior linebacker that's even better than the senior linebacker, but he's selling you, you're kind of worried about the senior linebacker because you need somebody to come up next year, but he's selling you on the junior linebacker that's better than him. Hey, he's probably going to be faster, stronger. Might not have the grades as the senior linebacker. Might not have the ACT as the senior linebacker, but he's trying to sell you on that junior linebacker, but he's over buying that senior linebacker. And I tell you, and we talked about this on the show many of times, me and Big E has, if you say, hey man, I really like this kid, and then that coach go, but Coach Carlton, now he put the butt in you, and now you thinking there's something wrong with this kid, right?
Right.
Because he's trying to sell you on this other kid, but he ain't selling you on the senior line. I think that happens to a lot of kids, man. I'm seeing kids that play 10 snaps in a game that couldn't tackle himself out of a bag get a D1 offer. But then I seen a kid that can play.
It's not by accident. So I have been at certain schools, been in saying that I've been a coach at certain colleges, and I walk into a school and I know, like, I've done my research, right? I've done my due diligence. I know what this kid is. And let's just say, because I've been all over the country, like, I have spies. Like, whenever I'm recruiting an Oklahoma guy, the second thing I tell him is, look, I'm a bomber. Don't hold that against me. But I understand what it's like to be a high school kid in Oklahoma. I'm recruiting you. I'm recruiting myself. So I tell them that. But when you get to a school, if you don't know, everything that goes on, and you hear something from a head coach, or you hear one of those disparaging remarks just in passing, you got to pay attention to that. Now, because I spent a lot of time coaching in the Ivy League, right, at Harvard and Yale and Columbia, sometimes I wouldn't even go talk to the football coach, Tony. I wouldn't talk to them. I go talk to the counselor first, because if the kid's grades ain't right, he could be Barry Sanders or Lawrence Taylor. I can't do that.
Can't do nothing with him.
Right? I can't do nothing with him. But to be able to go and talk with the principal, to be able to go and talk with, like, if I run across a janitor, custodian while I'm in the school, I'm going to be like, hey, you know who Tony Johnson is? And if they say yes, then it's probably a very good thing or a very bad thing, right? Like, you have to do your research on these kids, man. And it can't just be based off of the high school coach's opinion, because I do firmly believe that, even those coaches, they're subjective, as to who they think can go play. Tony, for a fact that Shaitan Gilbreth was a 1A football player.
He was. All day long.
I went to Vanderbilt. I played against everybody in the SEC. I went to the league. Shaitan should have been at a 1A school. Now, for whatever shortcomings, or whatever trouble and things like that Shaitan may have experienced while he was at Midwest City or growing up, his talent on the field was that of a 1A football player. I've never seen a running back be able to catch like him besides Marshall Faulk. And yes, I put Shaitan Gilbreth and Marshall Faulk in the same sentence.
You keeping it 100 right
but
there.
That dude had that ability. But because there were some indiscretions, right? How can then a coach feel like he would or should be able to tell a guy that, hey, this kid can go there? And if a coach feels a certain way, Tony, or they get it in their mind a certain way, that this kid has had some indiscretions, or, mom, had done something, or dad did something, then it's on the college coach to then go do further research and say, hey, can this kid do it? And actually have conversation with the doggone kid and be able to sit down with him, look him in the eye, and figure out, hey, is this, do you want to go to college? Are you going to act right? Are you going to do these things? Or do you want to live this certain life? And I'm not putting Shaitan on blast. I love that dude to death. Always have, always will.
No, you're right. Because
but those are the types of things, Tony, where I think some coaches believe that their integrity may be called into question if they put, basically if they're betting on the wrong horse. And to some degree, I can understand that, but then it goes back to, well, have you done what you're supposed to do to help this kid understand what he needs to do in order to get out of this environment that has not been conducive to him?
I think they pick and choose. I think they pick and choose.
Yeah.
And they do that. Let's just say Allen High School down in Texas, right? Who just got beat, actually. I saw that score. They've been running this thing for the better part of a decade and a half down in Texas. They got a $60 million stadium, and it looks like a college campus. Yeah. They have literally a recruiting coordinator at the high school where coaches come in and they sit there. And I'm sitting there one day. I'm at Northwestern Oklahoma, right? That's when I was at Northwestern. I'm sitting in Allen High School, and the soon-to-be head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels is in there with me. And we're sitting and we're talking, you play connect the dots with who you may know and who you may know. And Northwestern Oklahoma is not recruiting the same cat that Ole Miss is recruiting, right? I understand that fully. But when you see the lists, right, and you have this list for this guy and this list for this guy and this list for this guy, and you're trying to help a coach so he doesn't waste his time. I can understand that too as a college guy. Like I not only do I have to go to Allen that day, but I got to go to LD Bell, and I got to go to, Naaman Forest, and I got to go to Bishop, Byron Nelson. I got to go to all these schools. So yeah, I need to go get in, get out, see the kid that I want to see, so on and so forth. So I do need the high school coach to be honest with me. I do need to help me. Hey, this kid's committed here. This kid's committed here. Blah 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 blah. That helps. But it's kind of like our soon to be ex former president. Some of this is fake news now.
Yeah, I tell it all the time. It's Drake, baby.
You are getting an opinion, a subjective opinion from someone where, yes, I am going to hold the high school coach's opinion at a very high level until which I see that what he's telling me is not what matches on film, right? Because you walk into school and every, coach is like, yeah, he's a 1A guy, he's a 1A guy, he's a 1A guy. Really? Really? So you got 3 1A guys on your offense. So then either you're a bad coach or they're really not 1A guys, because you should be in the playoffs and winning a state championship if you got 3 1A guys on your team, right? Like,
yes,
let's be honest.
Let's keep it 100.
Let's keep it 100. Like, Tony, my senior year, right? We didn't win a state championship when I was at Midwest City in football. My senior year on that defense, just the defense from my senior year, how many guys went and played 1A football? You know that? Do you know how many?
You, Joseph.
I'll make it quick. 9 of the 11 football players on that defense went and played 1A or 1AA football. The only two that didn't were Tony Rideau, right? Old man Rideau, Corn, and the free safety who was the only other person that was all state with me that year because we messed up and we didn't win state. Randall was all state because he had 9 picks our senior year. And Randall didn't go.
He had 100.
And Randall didn't go to coach.
He had
101 to win that game.
Against UConn.
Yeah, to turn that whole game around.
Yes,
right?
sir.
To turn that
I know
whole
my
thing
stuff,
around.
Biggie. I know my sports, baby. Even when I'm done, I still keep up.
Those were the two guys that didn't go play 1A sport. And Corn still went to NEO, but you had and again, 2 of those guys were juniors, right? So the defensive line was Spencer went to Temple, right? Sean O'Boyle went to Tulsa.
Yep.
Darren Robinson went to Tennessee. And then you had Corn. The linebackers were Warren Faust, who went to Alabama and played quarterback, but ended up being a DB. Me, Johnny Johnson went to Brown. And Tim Daughtry went to OU. Should have never gone to OU. Should have went to Notre Dame because he was the number 1 punter in the country. And the DBs were Terrence, Randall, and BJ. And BJ had started at Air Force and then came back. So you had 9 guys go to 1A school. Should we have won a state championship? Yeah, but that's also why we were the number 14, 15 team in the country in USA Today to start off the year. Now, again, keeping it 100, I had a chance to ask Coach Evans and Coach Huggins, standing right next to each other, why did Huggins leave retire, knowing he had that team coming back my senior year? And the first time I ever asked him, Tony, I'm a grown man now. I get a chance to ask him that question as an adult. And Coach Evans looked at me, put his head down, looked me back in the eye, and he said, well, because I knew the team was really good, I felt like that would help Coach Huggins make that transition. Yes, and he was right to some degree, right? He was right. Like Coach Oliver will tell you, that was the first time Midwest City's defense could actually get field position more so than the offense. Because the offense has always been the offense. Hell, you had Mike Gundy, Cale Gundy, Jeremy. Like, those guys were slinging that thing before you could sling it.
But wasn't Kamasi the quarterback then?
And so Kamasi being the quarterback, like, we talk about Kamasi. Kamasi didn't get a fair shake either.
Nah.
Right? For the first time.
He was the first African-American quarterback at Midwest City.
You had not only quarterback, Tony, you had an all-black backfield at Midwest City. That had never happened before either.
No.
Kamasi didn't get his due diligence. Now, could Kamasi have gone to college and played quarterback? Yes. Could Kamasi have gone to 1A and played tailback and played tailback? Yes. Absolutely. But again, what was a coach saying to coaches coming in there as far as who he was or how could he play or what actually position did he think he could play? Yeah, Kamasi he was a better athlete than I was, to be honest. I mean, I do long jump like 19, 20 feet or something crazy.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like, those guys were really, really good athletes. But if the high school coach is not advocating for each and every one of his kids, and again, as a college coach, I get it, right? You walk in a room and you're like, hey, these 5 guys are 1A guys. Like, I'm gonna probably call BS on that, probably 9 times out of 10. you know, even if I've seen the film, I'll be like, you know, that guy's probably, you know, not this or he's not that. But it takes the high school coach to advocate for each and every one of his kids. It can't just be, hey, I'm going to pick this kid because his dad is a colonel in the Air Force and he's a class president and he has a good GPA. Like, I'm just going to pick that kid and then I got to boost that kid and let him go. Like, it has to be advocating for each one of the kids that you have, because that's your job. And when I hear coaches say that that's not their job, then they shouldn't be in this business. And the three of us, the three of us all know and have sat down with coaches, that high school coaches, that don't feel that way. And that's sad. That really is. There's not, you know, you can get mad about it. It's not going to do any good. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is just sad that some coaches feel that way about some of their players, where ultimately they're using that kid to win games, but they're not going to help him, you know, get out of, you know, forget about Midwest City. Let's just say, you know, Tonkawa or, you know, El Reno or something, like, to get out of those towns and go see something other than Oklahoma. Right. You know, I remember when I got to Oklahoma, Tony, and people were talking about, man, I can't wait to leave Oklahoma and go to Dallas. I'm like, you want to go to Dallas? Like, Dallas is just Oklahoma City on steroids.
Yeah,
like,
that's
why
all
don't
it
you go
is.
to
That's
New
all
York?
it is.
Why don't you go to Florida or Los Angeles? No, I don't want to go there. That's those crazy people out there. Like, that was the kind of the thinking when I got to Oklahoma of, I just want to, you know, I can't wait till I'm older. I can move to Dallas. So what the hell is Dallas? Dallas is Oklahoma City on steroids. Ain't no different, right? They got an NFL team. Hey, who matters? So getting those kids to think outside of the box, literally and figuratively, that's the coach's job. You know, I tell kids when I recruit them, look, if all I do is teach you how to play football, then I've done a bad job. I have done a horrible job. My job is to teach you how, in the 4 or 5 years that I have you, in those really, truly formative years, my job is to help you become a better man. It's to help you eventually be a better husband, to be a better father, to not make the mistakes that I made. My job is to help you become a better version of yourself. My job isn't complete until I get that email or that text message saying, hey, coach, you know, I got a baby on the way. And I got one last week, man. It was awesome. You know, a kid that I coached at Harvard, for crying out loud, told me that he's expecting his first child. Like that, you know, in my old age, Tony, you know, having kids now, you get choked up on little stuff now,
oh,
man.
Yeah,
I got a
grandbaby.
You can't be all tough and stuff, man.
Yeah, I got a grandbaby.
You watch an insurance commercial, you might start crying now, man. Like, this is horrible. But those are the things that
make you feel
trying
good.
to get a 17, 18-year-old to understand, man. Like, the guy that recruited me to Vanderbilt, he was 100% honest with me. He was a good football coach. His name is John Shute. John Shute was the second youngest offensive coordinator in NFL history behind John Gruden.
Man, that's crazy.
Like, that's who that dude is, right?
Yes, sir.
And I still have a relationship with that man. And he's not in coaching anymore. I still have a relationship with that man now because he was honest with me. He did, you know, recruited me hard as he could. You know, Vanderbilt didn't cheat. Like, I didn't have that Range Rover sitting in the parking lot as much as I wanted one. Colonel Hall was never going to let that shit fly.
That's
right?
what I'm talking about, baby.
You know what I mean? Like, he, you know, like that was on the table. But I have a relationship with that man who, you know, I've known, you know, since I was, you know, 16 years old. You know, another guy, Ron Aiken. Ron Aiken, when we were in high school, Tony, he was the head coach at Langston University, right? When I was at Vanderbilt, he was part of the second staff that I played for at Vanderbilt. So he showed up at Vanderbilt. When I went to the Chargers, he was at San Diego State as a coach, right? Like, this man, everything I have ever taught defensive linemen, I came from him, right? And he's only been at Iowa and Texas and was, a D-line coach at Oregon and a D-line coach when the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers. Like, this dude is a awesome just man, right? To be able to talk to this man and say, hey, you know, he was recruiting me to New Mexico State when we were in high school, and he thought he had it in because he had gone to North Carolina A&T. My dad had gone to North Carolina A&T.
He thought he had it the inside.
And he knew he had it in, right? And then this guy shows up again and again in my life. And those are the types of relationships, man, where you want to have with these kids when you're recruiting them. It's not just, hey, you know, come here, we'll get you right, we're going to win some games. You know, you're going to graduate, maybe, but you're going to graduate. You got to say that. and then, you know, have nothing to do with these kids, man. Like, I can lay my head on my pillow at night knowing that, one, I ain't cheating to get the kids. I'm being honest with them. If I don't get them to go to whatever school I'm at, I'm helping them go to another school. And, you know, kids don't hear that from a lot of people all the time, especially college football coaches. They want to talk fast. They just want to talk to the kid. You know, I had a conversation with a kid that I actually committed to me from Kansas, from Wichita, Kansas. And that's actually where I was born, Tone. So, you know, I'm using the fact that I was born in, you know, St. Francis Hospital and all types of mess to recruit this kid, right? The coaches will do anything that way, right, to make a connection. But I'm talking to the mom and dad last week, and not one coach had sat down and explained the financial aid situation with the parents. Like, it was just to the kid. You know, when the mom wanted to talk to some of these coaches recruiting the kid, they kind of were really short and didn't want to talk with them. And that's just not how you do this, man. In my opinion, it's not how you do this, because, again, I have to get the information, not just to the kid, but to the mom, to the dad. Hell, I'll talk to his little brother and sister just to be like, hey, look, you know, once I get, you know, Tony Johnson up here, if he's messing with you, let me know. I can make him run extra laps and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, this is a family decision. And I didn't, whereas, you know, over the course of now, you know, 18 years of being a college football coach, you have to make these relationships work, because it's about making sure the kid is comfortable with this decision. Because this is a hard thing, man. I woke up that morning, Tony, on signing day my senior year, and I walked into Huggins' office. And again, Huggins was a good dude. He understood everything. And Huggins looked at me. He's like, all right, well, you got to call these other coaches and tell them. And I was like, no, I don't. I ain't calling nobody. Like, they'll find out tomorrow when I sign it. And he was like, nope, you got to call them.
You got to do it right. Well, Carlton, man.
And you got to do those things the right way. These are kids, man. They're kids.
Well, Carlton, man, it's good to have you on the show, man. I know we can talk all night and keep going,
all
man.
All night. We don't. You don't have enough sponsors for all the stories we got.
That's all right, though. We're gonna keep working on that. Maybe
we're working on that.
Maybe I get some of these Midwest City guys after they heard this Bomber alumni come back together. Bomber a reunion with Yellow Jacket, part of us. But Carlton, man, it's really great to have you on the show. You know,
absolutely.
I'll just tell you, man, we got to do it again. You know, I know football's winding down, and I know you.
I will say this, Tony. Like, if we can get through, like, all of us, man, collectively, like I said, you know, everybody to be safe out there, to get through this, right? Oklahoma's my recruiting area, Tony. You know that, we've talked about it, but to be there in person, man, like, once I can actually get back out on the road and see these kids that I'm recruiting in Oklahoma. You know, I'm going to be there for, you know, at least 3 or 4 days to be able to see these kids. For us to sit down again and do it would be awesome, man, because
hey, you're welcome on
kids and parents need to hear the truth, Tony. It's not the
Hey, I'm glad you came over. I'm going to probably piss some people off, but you know what?
Oh, yeah, we're going to get – hey, you know we about to get some emails here whenever y'all post it.
That's all right. I keep – you know what? Like I tell them every week, if you don't like the show, you ain't got to what?
You ain't got to watch.
But guess what? We going to keep it what?
Keep it 100.
That's what we do here. That's what we do here, Mr. Hall. We keep it 100. Oklahoma high school sports, baby. It's good to have you on the show. Like you said, once you get in town, let's get together. You come in the studio, we shoot live, and we keep going, keep talking and talking and talking. But that's what we do here. We keep it 100, baby.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, kind of.
Yeah. And, hopefully, when you're able to get out on the road, it'll be a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely. Tony, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Love you, dude.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day. Tell mom and dad I said hi.
I will. Sure will.
Right. Thanks, sir.
All right, man.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, that's Carlton Hall. As you can see, man, we had a great show talking about our old days playing at Midwest City High School. And, you know, enjoying the good times, and, you know, him being a college coach, like I said, his resume speaks for itself. I know we didn't get into every school he's coached at, but he's coached at quite a bit of schools. But, you know, on the defensive side of the ball, from a defensive coordinator to a linebacker coach to a lineman coach, D-line coach. But the guy, like you said, you heard the guy's smart. He graduated from Vanderbilt. You know, he played a little bit of pro ball there, and, you know, San Diego Chargers with one of our old teammates, Terrence Joseph, that played up in Tulsa. I know Terrence played a little bit of arena ball with San Jose, baby. That's it. He got me. He picks me up when I'm stumbling. But folks, like I said, what we do is we keep it 100. You know, we always try to bring a good show. You know, right now we'll be kind of, taking our show more into wrestling, into basketball. As you can see, we got the basketball, the gold balls down.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully I get me a gold basketball up right now, but right now I got a real basketball up there. But folks, like I said, I get fired up when it comes to, when it comes to sports, because I want to see every kid make it, and, it's a dream of trying to play college ball, and it's not free, and before we get off the show, a couple things I'm going to peek under the tent is that one thing that Keep It 100 will be doing in the up and coming year, 2020-21, we will be giving a scholarship, $500, for the spring, and another $500 for the fall sports, and that's to try to help a kid pay for his books or a parking pass, because you understand, man, some kids don't get no money at all, and I know some parents get upset when I say, hey, is that a scholarship? Is that an Oklahoma Promise scholarship? Well, folks, you heard what Carlton just said. Sometimes these coaches don't want to tell you. They offer your kid, but they're not giving you everything on the platform of what he's going to get. Yeah. You can go get that Oklahoma Promise scholarship. That's only lasts for 2 years. When that's over, guess what? You're going to have a bill, but you think Johnny's had a scholarship for the last 4 years, but guess what? He don't. He had one for 2 years, but guess what? If Johnny ain't doing what they want him to do, they're going to give Johnny's money to Bobby. Now, Bobby got Johnny's money, and I guess what? Now you got a bigger bill. But what we can do with Keep It 100, we're going to try to help kids maybe pay for a book, maybe pay for a parking pass, maybe pay for a meal plan, because that's what I want to do here, folks. So, me and you, we'll bring more to it, but that's one of the things that we will do with Keeping It 100. We will have, $1,000 scholarship, $500 up, for the spring, and then another $500 for the fall. Then if we get more money, we'll do more. And that's what I want to do to the kids, and we'll have some kind of setup, a player of the week, maybe put his name in a hat, and then we draw at the end of the year. Or, maybe have a kid come on, the top 5 kids come on, and we talk to them, and then we kind of get to know the kid and find out, who really needs the money. But we'll come up with something. But I will guarantee you, Keep It 100, we'll have a scholarship set up for, a couple of kids for the, 2021 class, giving them money for they can go to school. E, before we wrap this up, anything on your mind? I know Carlton took a lot of our time, but
oh no, that's fine. I mean, I'm glad he brought up a lot of the things that he did bring up. When we were talking about Carl Albert, that's not a knock to Carl Albert, but really, when you got kids on your team that they're playing their heart out, they're working every day, and they're not getting anything back in return, that's just sad to see. I mean, even me at Choctaw, I played at Choctaw. I've never started in a game, played when we were up by 50. And I had my coach even come up there and talk to me like, hey, is college something that you want to do? He had that conversation with me, And, ultimately it didn't pan out. That wasn't God's plan for me. But, there are kids out there that, they deserve to do that. And it's just sad to see when I know that there are kids out there that were working harder than me, that are way more talented than me, putting way more time and effort than I was, and their coaches don't even bring up college to them. They're just, like what Carlton said, they're using them to get rings on their finger, and that's just sad to see.
And he's right. I mean, and that's just not at Carl Albert. That's at a lot of different schools.
Yeah, there's a lot of different schools.
A lot of schools didn't have that, but now they're jumping into that swimming pool because, hey, let's bring this kid over here, whatever it costs to get this kid over here. And like I said earlier, man, I moved to Choctaw because my son was a wrestler. My boys were at Carl Albert. They could have had 4 or 5 rings like everybody else. What was it? They called it the Ring of 5, whatever. And, my boys graduated last year. Carl Albert's won 4 or 5 rings in that time. So
yeah, they'd have a handful.
Yeah, they'd have a handful, Gabe probably been a 3 or 4 time state champion. But, I wanted my kid to be in a bigger pond. I always tell people, yes, I was a Bomber, but Midwest City didn't have a great wrestling program. Not knocking them. Midwest City's kind of fell off a lot in some of their sports. I mean, they're getting it back. Coach Hall's, doing a good job. They get to the semifinal, but the wrestling program has fell off so much. So when I was over at Carl Albert, they didn't have the workout partners that Gabe needed. They didn't go to the big tournaments that Benny Coleman and Teresa and Dustin, Reed and, all these guys take them to these big tournaments. They're not wrestling in Perry, they're not wrestling in Gary, they're not wrestling in Nevada, in these big time tournaments. And my kid got to wrestle on Team Oklahoma. And so that's why I chose that path. But me and my wife sold our house in Del City that I could have probably had paid off by now. And we bought a bigger home. So that becomes, when you get a bigger home, it becomes a bigger web mortgage. So, we took that route for our kid. And believe me, my daughter, Shakayla, graduated from Choctaw, and Deshaun and Gabe, but I did it the right way. I didn't live My kids didn't live in somebody's guest house.
Right.
And I didn't live in a fake house. I did it the right way. And I'm not saying they're doing that at Choctaw or Carl Albert or Millwood City or Dell City. If you know you're doing it, the only person that knows they're doing it is the person that's doing it. So if you are doing it, man, be real, because at the end of the day, you are taking some kid's spot that is busting his butt, is doing his job to get there. So do it the right way, like Carlton said. These college coaches know if you're a real coach or you're a fake coach. I mean, I love it because I ain't talked to Carlton in years, but it's funny. He said fake news. I use that line a lot. Do I not? Drake stuff, fake news. Don't sell fake news. College coaches, when you walk in there, they know who you selling. So sell all the kids. Don't just sell one kid. Don't butt a kid. Don't a kid. Don't do this to a kid. Sell that kid. Every kid, every senior that's on your team should be trying to get a scholarship. Now, if he ain't got the grades, don't try to sell him. If the kid's a knucklehead, don't try to sell him. But if a kid is a Class A, Class B guy, sell him. All it's doing is making your program better. So that's what I got. Keeping it 100, Oklahoma High School. What?
Oklahoma High School sports.
Anything else, Big E, before we get out of here? Because I know we going gone.
Just one more thing I want to add, with talking about offers and everything like that. The National Signing Day is coming up. We had the early period back in December, but the National Signing period comes up in February. A lot of kids, they might have that D1 or bust mentality, and I don't want kids to have that mentality, You can go on and make a good career for yourself and get a good education at a D3 school, at a NAIA, at a JUCO. You can use a JUCO to help you get to a D1. There's multiple different avenues. So a message that I want to push is I don't want kids thinking that they have to go D1 because they probably heard that from their coaches, their parents, all that.
So, I was that parent. You got to go D1, but at the end of the day, it's all about who's going to make you happy. Another thing, like he said, look into those scholarships.
Absolutely.
If it's not a D1, and even D1s, look into it because a lot of those D1s are year to year. Look into those scholarships, parents, and make sure, hey, because junior college not junior college, but Division II only give out 36 scholarships, and you got 150 kids on your team. So everybody don't have a full ride. So they're having to chop that up. So make sure you're reading between the lines before you sign anything, that it's the right thing you're doing. Don't get caught up that by the time your kid get out of college, he got $100,000 college bill because you thought he had a full ride, and they haven't paid for nothing, from his meal plan to his parking pass, none of that. Now, D1s pay for pretty much everything. My kid's at a D2. He has a pretty good offer. I got lucky. But, the better he does, they can't take money from him, but the better he does, he can make more money. So look at that kind of stuff before you go sign anything. Look at all your options. Granted, if it's Oklahoma school is going to be better for you and it's going to be cheaper for you, stay right here. Don't go get that out-of-state tuition because it's going to break you and hurt you. So that's my deal given to you. What I know, I don't know everything, but I know a little bit. And don't feel like I don't know stuff because I know stuff before you know stuff, because that's what I do. I keep it what?
Keep it 100.
So we'll catch you next week. We'll have more basketball, more wrestling on. Thank you for listening to this show with Carlton Hall, Big E. Got a new shirt. Hope he has it on next week. Got me some new gear on. My kids bought me a puffy. Had a great Christmas. I want to thank the Lord and everybody, everything. So we're out.
Peace. See you next week.